Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. In a large city where crime and corruption plagued the police force, General Marcus Holloway, the city's first black police officer, led with rigor and integrity. His authority inspired respect, but also envy and hatred from some of his colleagues. One evening, while returning home from a long strategy meeting, Marcus was attacked by Officer Derek Lawson, a jealous and racist police officer who couldn't bear to see a black man at the top of the hierarchy. Lawson shot Marcus without hesitation. The general collapsed, struck by betrayal and violence. But what Lawson didn't know was that Marcus was never alone. At his side was Rex, a massive German shepherd trained for years to protect his master. The dog, witnessing the attack, immediately pounced. Lawson tried to flee, but Rex, driven by an almost supernatural instinct, chased him. The dog didn't just defend Marcus, he hunted Lawson down, making the town witness to a loyal and relentless vengeance. News spread quickly: the general had been assassinated, but his dog had avenged his death in a way no one could have imagined. This tragedy would forever change the perception of the police and reveal the deep divide between those who serve with honor and those who betray out of hatred. Rain gusted across the city, turning the streets into dark mirrors where the streetlights reflected like ghosts. General Marcus Holloway, the first black man to lead the police department, was driving quietly home. He had just finished a strategy meeting with his lieutenants, planning actions to combat the corruption plaguing his department. Beside him in the passenger seat, his German shepherd, Rex, rested peacefully. The dog and his owner were a legendary duo within the department. Rex was not only a companion, but a seasoned protector, able to detect danger before Marcus even saw it. As Marcus parked his car in front of his residence, a figure emerged from the shadows: Officer Derek Lawson, an ambitious, envious, and deeply racist police officer. His gaze was cold, filled with hatred and jealousy. For months, he had harbored resentment toward Marcus for one simple reason: Marcus, as a black man, had shattered the glass ceiling that Lawson believed to be inviolable. Before Marcus could react, Lawson drew his weapon and fired. The first shot grazed Marcus's shoulder, but the second hit his chest. The general staggered and fell, gasping for air, his eyes wide with surprise and pain. Rex, alerted by the noise, leaped forward. His powerful muscles tensed like springs, and his fangs glittered in the night. Lawson stepped back, surprised by the dog's instant reaction. Rex, loyal and determined, charged at him with impressive force. The officer tried to fire again, but the dog dodged, agile and quick. In the pouring rain, a chase began. Rex wouldn't let go of Lawson, tracking him with terrifying precision. Marcus, half conscious, whispered his dog's name. "Rex, protect me." The dog growled, leaping forward with almost supernatural energy, ready to defend his master to the last breath. That night, the city discovered that General Holloway had been assassinated, but his loyal companion wasn't about to let the murderer go free. A silent but relentless vengeance had begun. Dawn was barely breaking when news of Marcus Holloway's assassination spread throughout the city. Police sirens echoed through the streets, alerting residents to an unprecedented tragedy: the commander-in-chief had been killed. Chaos reigned at police headquarters. Lieutenants and officers were shocked, some with tears in their eyes, others furious that a colleague could have committed such a monstrous act. Suspicion quickly fell on Derek Lawson, whose background and jealousy of Marcus made him the ideal suspect. Meanwhile, Rex, loyal and vigilant, refused to leave his master's body. The dog, despite the pain of seeing Marcus injured, was driven by an instinct for justice. His eyes scanned the night and his breathing mingled with the rain still on the ground. Lawson, thinking he was escaping, rushed into an adjacent alley. But Rex, faster and more determined, followed him at a distance. The dog knew Marcus's habits, knew that his master was often alone at night, and would never let a criminal pass. The city, still numb with shock, was unaware that a silent hunt had begun. Rex pursued Lawson through the deserted streets, leaping over obstacles, bouncing onto rooftops, and dodging parked cars. A panicked Lawson realized too late that he had underestimated the dog's intelligence and loyalty. Meanwhile, back at headquarters, Deputy Sarah Whitman, Marcus's close associate, was taking matters into her own hands. She knew Lawson had enemies within the department and that he might attempt to disappear. She immediately organized a plan to hunt Lawson down, unaware that the Real hunter was already at work, driven by a bond older than mere instinct. In this race between hatred and loyalty, one thing was clear: Derek Lawson would soon discover that even an experienced police officer is never prepared to face the loyalty of a dog who loves his master like his own life. Lawson ran through the dark alleys, his heart pounding. Every sound seemed like Rex was stalking him. He tried to catch his breath, but fear made him clumsy, tripping over trash cans and puddles. Rex, meanwhile, moved silently forward, his steps perfectly in step with his master's. The dog showed no fatigue, only unwavering determination. His loyalty to Marcus Holloway transformed him into a true force of nature. Lawson thought he could lose the dog by entering an old, abandoned warehouse. He closed the door behind him and slipped into the shadows, believing he had escaped his pursuer. But Rex, sensing Lawson's scent through the rain and mud, slipped through a broken window with surprising agility. Inside, Lawson turned and saw the German Shepherd's bright eyes in the darkness. A cold chill ran down his spine. The dog growled, its fangs gleaming in the dim light. Lawson raised his gun, but his hands were shaking so much that he missed. Rex lunged, forcing him back into a wall. Meanwhile, back at headquarters, Sarah Whitman had begun gathering information on where Lawson might be hiding. She knew Lawson wasn't alone in his actions, and that Marcus had enemies willing to do anything to bring him down. But she still didn't know how Rex was already intervening in this hunt. At the warehouse, Lawson felt true fear for the first time. The relentless dog pressed on him from all sides, forcing him into an inevitable confrontation. Every growl from Rex sounded like a warning: Marcus Holloway's loyalty and honor do not end with his life. That night, Derek Lawson learned the hard way that blind hatred stands no chance against pure loyalty and the instinct of a dog to protect what he holds dear. The warehouse was silent, broken only by Lawson's panting breath and Rex's soft footsteps on the damp floor. Lawson backed away, his back against a wall, his eyes searching for an exit that didn't exist. The dog advanced slowly, relentlessly, each growl sounding like judgment. At headquarters, Sarah Whitman was receiving reports from officers about Lawson. She sensed something strange was happening. Several witnesses claimed to have seen a German Shepherd prowling near the suspect's escape scene. A feeling crossed her mind: Rex was involved. What if Marcus's dog was chasing the murderer? Inside the warehouse, Lawson attempted one last act of desperation. He raised his gun, ready to shoot Rex. But the dog, quick as lightning, dodged and lunged at Lawson's hand, forcing him to drop the weapon. Fear transformed the agent into a helpless man. Rex held him down, growling, his eyes filled with an almost human intelligence. "Rex, enough," whispered a voice behind them. Sarah Whitman entered, gun pointed but calm. She took in the scene: Lawson pinned by Rex, trembling, unable to defend himself. Rex, recognizing Sarah's voice, immediately stepped back, sitting by the door, still vigilant but obedient. "You are under arrest, Derek Lawson," Sarah declared authoritatively. "You assassinated General Holloway and attempted to escape." Lawson, stunned, realized he was trapped. He hadn't expected the loyalty of a dog, nor Sarah's swift action. His hatred and arrogance had led him straight into the trap. Rex turned to Marcus's body, lying in the patrol car parked outside. The dog let out a sad whimper, reminding everyone that this victory was bittersweet. His master had fallen, but justice, thanks to him and Sarah, was beginning to be served. This confrontation marked a turning point. Derek Lawson was taken away, Rex remained loyal to Marcus's side, and Sarah understood that this dog was not just an animal, but a true silent hero, guardian of Marcus Holloway's honor and memory. The next morning, police headquarters was abuzz. News of Derek Lawson's arrest was already circulating, but the story of Rex, the loyal German Shepherd, was beginning to spread among officers and reporters. Some whispered that the dog had avenged Marcus Holloway, transforming the tragic event into a symbol of loyalty and justice. Sarah Whitman, now in charge of the murder investigation, reviewed Lawson's files. His background revealed a long list of questionable behavior, abuse of power, intimidation, and unaddressed complaints about colleagues and citizens. Sarah realized that Lawson's racial hatred toward Marcus was only part of a larger problem. Meanwhile, Rex remained by Marcus's body in the patrol car, refusing to leave the scene where his master had been attacked. Each officer's visit was greeted with a watchful stare and a warning growl. He seemed to understand that, even in death, Marcus still relied on him to ensure justice. Sarah held an internal conference with all the trusted officers. She explained that Marcus Holloway's murder wasn't just an isolated crime, it was a symptom of the corruption and systemic racism plaguing the department. She stressed the importance of gathering witness statements and verifying every suspicious action by Lawson and his accomplices. Meanwhile, Derek Lawson, in prison, was beginning to feel the psychological consequences of his confrontation with Rex. Visions of the dog pouncing on him kept returning, reminding him that he had been defeated by something he had always underestimated, a dog's loyalty and intelligence, combined with human justice. The entire city was beginning to understand that Marcus Holloway's death had triggered a chain reaction. Rex, a silent symbol of loyalty and justice, would be at the center of this story. And for Lawson, every moment spent in custody was a confrontation with his own fear and guilt. The department now knew that the investigation would not just be about the murder of a general, but about Marcus's honor, about corruption that needed to be rooted out, and about a dog that had changed the course of events. Days after Derek Lawson's arrest, Sarah Whitman doggedly pursued her investigation. Every detail seemed crucial, and she knew Lawson hadn't acted alone. Internal records revealed suspicious transfers of information, ignored complaints, and troubling behavior by several department officers. Meanwhile, Rex never left headquarters. His exceptional sense of smell allowed him to detect something the humans had missed. During a routine inspection, Rex lingered outside a closed office belonging to a high-ranking officer, grunting and banging on the door. Sarah, intrigued, opened the drawer and discovered a hidden notebook filled with notes on Marcus, his plans, and his investigations against corruption. Each page revealed the truth: Lawson had been manipulated, encouraged by jealous and corrupt colleagues who wanted to see Marcus fall. The murder was not an isolated act, but an attack on justice itself. Sarah then realized Rex's importance in the case. Without the dog, this notebook might have remained hidden, and Lawson's accomplices might have escaped justice. Rex, loyal and intelligent, seemed almost aware of the impact of his discovery. He rested his head on the desk, looking at Sarah with eyes filled with an almost human intelligence. She murmured, "You helped me, old boy." Marcus would have been proud. The evidence gathered allowed Sarah to plot a series of targeted arrests. Corrupt officers were taken into custody, and confidential documents exposed the depth of hatred and jealousy that led to Marcus Holloway's murder. Around town, Rex's story began to spread. Residents, journalists, and even law-abiding officers recounted how a dog had played a pivotal role in the fight against corruption and the revenge of an assassinated general. Rex was no longer just a dog, he had become a living symbol of loyalty and justice. But Sarah knew the story wasn't over. The city still had to deal with the aftermath of hatred, and Lawson and his accomplices were only just beginning. Rex, Marcus, and the truth were now bound together in a fight for justice that was only just beginning. The tension in the interrogation room was palpable. Derek Lawson, still shaken by his confrontation with Rex and his captivity, sat across from Sarah Whitman. The cold light accentuated the drawn features and visible fear on his face. "You know why you're here, Lawson," Sarah began calmly, but firmly. "You didn't just kill Marcus Holloway, you betrayed the entire police force and the trust of this city." Lawson looked away, but the familiar sound of heavy footsteps sounded behind him. Rex entered the room, growling softly but with a commanding presence. The dog sat down right next to Sarah, fixing Lawson with a look he would never forget. I only obeyed," Lawson stammered, trying to find an excuse. But Rex placed his paw on the ground, as if to emphasize each word, and Derek felt a psychological pressure that no weapon could match. Sarah knew the moment had come. She held up the notebook Rex had found and looked him straight in the eye. It's all there. All your plans, all your manipulations. Who made you do this? Lawson, trembling, gave in. He began to speak, revealing the names of the accomplices who had encouraged him to assassinate Marcus Holloway, exposing the corruption at the highest levels of the department. He mentioned the secret meetings, the threats, and the manipulations that had led to this terrible act. Rex sat proudly, seeming to understand every word. His gaze fell on Sarah, as if to say, "We have taken the first step, but there is still much to do." With this confession, Sarah was able to organize a series of targeted arrests. Lawson's accomplices were taken away one by one, and the web of corruption began to unravel. The entire town followed the story with fascination. A loyal and courageous dog had not only protected Marcus Holloway's memory, but had also helped reveal the truth. This victory was not only one of justice, but also of loyalty. Rex, a silent hero, remained at Sarah's side, ready to continue the fight for his master and for the city. The entire city had gathered outside the police department's central hall. Flags were at half-staff, and the air was thick with emotion. Marcus Holloway, the top general, had been assassinated, but his legacy of justice and integrity was celebrated. Sarah Whitman spoke before the officers and citizens. She recounted Marcus's courage, his fight against corruption and hatred, and how he had inspired all who knew him. Then she spoke of Rex, the faithful dog who not only protected his master in the final moments, but also played a central role in exposing the plots and capturing the culprits. "Rex is more than an animal," Sarah said, her voice trembling. "He is a living symbol of loyalty, courage, and justice. Marcus would have been proud of him." Rex, wearing a clean, shiny collar, stood proudly beside Sarah. The townspeople, impressed, began to applaud. Reporters took pictures, and the story of the hero dog quickly spread throughout the town and beyond. Meanwhile, Derek Lawson and his accomplices were brought to justice. The evidence gathered, the confessions, and the notebook discovered thanks to Rex made any defense impossible. The truth came to light, exposing the depths of corruption and the power of loyalty and integrity. In the streets, residents whispered in awe, a dog had avenged his master and helped bring justice. Rex became a symbol of courage, reminding everyone that even in the darkest times, loyalty and bravery can triumph. As the sun set over the city, Sarah stroked Rex behind the ears and whispered, "Thank you, old boy. Thanks to you, Marcus lives on in our memories." And for Rex, that night, the world seemed a little fairer, a little brighter, even after the loss of his master. As the city began to heal its wounds and pay tribute to Marcus Holloway, Sarah Whitman sensed something was still unresolved. Despite the arrests of Lawson and his accomplices, recent reports suggested that one last network of corruption still operated in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. One night, Rex stirred in the headquarters. His unerring sense of smell detected a suspicious presence outside. Sarah, armed with her flashlight, followed the dog to an abandoned industrial area. There, she discovered a secret meeting where several corrupt former officers were still plotting to sow chaos in the city and destroy Marcus's memory. Rex, silent but ready to act, guided Sarah through the shadows. When the conspirators noticed their presence, he leaped forward, growling powerfully. Sarah took the opportunity to alert the remaining law enforcement and surround the group. The men were taken by surprise and quickly subdued. This final intervention ended the last vestige of corruption that threatened the department. Rex, loyal and vigilant, had once again been the key to protecting justice and Marcus Holloway's honor. At headquarters, Sarah looked at the dog in admiration. "You never just protect, do you? You always finish the job." Rex laid his head on his knees, tired but satisfied, as if aware that justice had been done and his master's memory remained intact. The city then understood that Marcus Holloway was not only an exceptional man, but that his legacy of justice lived on through the actions of those who knew him, and his heroic dog. A few weeks after the arrest of the last corrupt group, the city held a memorial service for Marcus Holloway. The streets were decorated with banners, and many citizens and officers were present to celebrate the man who had embodied integrity, courage, and justice. Sarah Whitman spoke to the gathered crowd. Marcus Holloway was not just our general. He was an example to us all. And his legacy is measured not only by his actions, but by those who continue to stand up for justice. Rex, sitting proudly at his side, received applause. The townspeople were impressed by the intelligence, loyalty, and courage of the dog who had watched over Marcus and helped reveal the truth. For many, Rex represented the embodiment of loyalty and honor. A monument was erected in the city's Central Park, depicting Marcus standing proud and dignified, with Rex at his side. The plaque read, "To Marcus Holloway, General-in-Chief, who defended justice until his last breath. And to Rex, his faithful companion, a silent hero." The ceremony ended with a moment of silence. Sarah stroked Rex, her eyes shining with gratitude and emotion. "You protected your master, you protected the city, and you showed what loyalty truly means." The city, forever marked by Marcus's courage and Rex's heroic actions, began to rebuild itself on the foundations of integrity and justice. And for Sarah, every time she saw Rex walking proudly by her side, she knew that Marcus Holloway's spirit lived on, not only in the memories of men, but also in the heart of an exceptional dog. Justice had triumphed, loyalty had been rewarded, and the city would never forget the general and his faithful companion.